Golf STX PL. Give him a warm up.
Hello everyone. In my lightning talk I would like to encourage you to play golf, and to be more specific, to take part in a small coding competition that is accessible under this URL. Why golf? Mainly because the rules of the game are similar to playing golf. When you play golf, you try to push a ball into a hole with least the smallest number of strikes. Yeah. And the same in the coding competition, you try to solve a small coding problem. Okay. A simple coding problem using the smallest number of used characters in your code. This is just an example. This is a possible solution of the first task that was played today morning. And as you can see, the code contains 271 characters, but it can be minimized to, let's say, 125. This is the example of the code that won today first contest, and both these examples solve the same problem. And actually, the question why would we like to minimize the code written in Python? And the answer is just for fun. There is no other reason to do it, I think. But when you will take part, it can give you some new ideas of how some instructions are processed by the interpreter. For example, in Python 2, you could save two characters of calling grep by wrapping the object in backticks. So, for example, if you would like to convert this integer into string, you could save two characters. Yeah, there is another example. In case when you use a number, the next token doesn't need to contain a space before it. Just an example that can save you one more character in your code. Yeah, and here's more ugly example where you can save a couple of characters in calling a function in a loop by calling it in exec times k. But yeah, it works, but it is it is not rather suggested to do it this way. And yeah, as you can imagine, the code that you write and you post is verified on the server side. That's why we have to run it in a sandbox environment. But yeah, people try to solve the task this way, for example. Thankfully, it didn't work. Okay, that's it. I hope that I managed to encourage you to take part in the competition, and yeah, thank you.
Alright. Hi, my name is Lukas. I'm going to talk about bugs, a lot of bugs. I'm from the internet, you can find me there. The exponential cost of fixing bugs is a well-known trope in computer science. The problem with it is wrong. Like, it's important that bugs be found fast, not in which phase they were introduced. Like, all that matters is the time to find it and the time that users are actually dealing with it, right? This thing uses the water for a model of software development, and that thing is also wrong, right? Like nobody in the right mind would do that. Like I'm always so slow, like to get changes to the user. So unless you're perfect, like terrible bugs will be very for long, very periods of time, like hitting people. So you're thinking, hi, no, I'm just going to use like an agile methodology so that I can do my iterations faster. But still, like no, that's still super slow. Like 30 days for a sprint, maybe 2 weeks for a sprint. That's still like a terrible experience. So what should you do instead? Well, I know a guy who said once that if you're not breaking things, you're not moving fast enough, and I think that's right. Like, we should just embrace the fact that every now and then we're gonna make a mess. And I know what you're thinking, like, dude, like, if I did that, like, I would get fired, and you're not the only one thinking this, right? Like, it's a perfectly, like, valid concern, but the point about move fast and break things is not to be reckless, it's not to be stupid. The point about this is to make this compromise that if you move fast enough, well, you do whatever is necessary to remove roadblocks for yourself and other members for the team. That then improves quality. For instance, another team I work with, well, does this continued deployment thing. So when you start doing that, soon enough you can deploy 50 times per day. And that means that not only you can iterate quicker, but you can also, fix bugs quicker, like in minutes, and people just don't really notice that. Especially that, as Uncle Ben said, like with great power comes with great responsibility, right? And you don't want to get fired for losing your company real money, right? And you don't want to go to jail for not conforming with important regulations, right? But most importantly, even if it takes minutes to fix a bug, you still don't want to have it in production because it just makes people upset. So, what should we do? Well, I don't have any secret. Like, the truth of the matter is, like, really, it takes 20 seconds to create a new file and put a test case in it. If it doesn't take 20 seconds for you, then start moving fast and just improve your workflow so it does, because it should really take just 20 seconds. Collect coverage all the time. Display that information during test runs and code review. At Facebook, we put minimal code coverage percentage for a given file, such that we protect the quality for people doing quick fixes, and small enhancements. Like, no, like the coverage in that file is 80%, and it's going to stay like this, right? Mock your external data sources. Bonus points if you can make the team that writes your database client to write the mocks for you. That makes the most sense. But the point of mocking is not security, it's to move fast, again, right? Like by not having to connect to your data sources all the time. But if you really test like user creation, don't mock the data source, that's stupid. In your tests, if you are not doing strictly unit tests, don't worry about it. You're still better than a crowd that doesn't write any tests at all, right? So if you can't mock, separate your test from your production. But if you can't do that, well, use a staging environment. If you can't do that, well, spin your own database. If you can't do that, well, then separate your data, like having test users and stuff like this. Proxy your writes such that you're safe, and just whitelist the ones that you know are okay. And most importantly, just make code review mandatory. Like ESR famously said that given enough eyes, all bugs are shallow, and that's true. Like, don't be your own judge, like, let others do it. Remember, your code sucks, right? But that's okay, because you are not your code. So, add linkers to help your reviewers, right? So at Facebook we use Flake 8 for all Python code. Run it on Python 3, because even if your application is Python 2, that way you are going to catch problems that will stop you from propagating in the future. And that way you can also use Bugbear, something that I maintain that has additional warnings. 11 at this point, but it's my job to add more, so there's going to be more in the future. Make your changes atomic, so that means don't integrate things that are half finished. Move fast doesn't mean you should comment every time you touch a file. Like, move fast is also about not slowing other people down. So if your workflow doesn't let you rebase your changes super quickly, change your workflow, move fast. Use feature flags. At Facebook we call them gatekeepers, at Instagram we call them knobs. But there are ways in software for you to test a feature by rolling it out slowly. It's a way for you to disable a broken feature without the need to redeploy. So remember, broken doesn't mean it's not working. Sometimes it's just too slow. Profile your code in production, you need to do that. Use Python 3 for new stuff. I know, I get it, but it's 2016, we should use Python 3 and spread the knowledge. Does that mean we're not going to have bugs? No, we're still not going to have bugs. That's me.
The next person. We're struggling with connecting the screen. Give us a few seconds more. And after that, we'll be talking about WDB. Okay, we're close. We're close. And how many desktops are you using? And my stuff I'm using, there's nothing like desktop tonight. 1, 2, 3, 1. We're getting there. We're getting there. Then you should start using something else. And of course, yeah. Then you should switch to Linux and I don't have any problems with i3. It always works. It's up to you. Go.
Okay. Hi all. I think you might know where this screen comes from. I have decided to use the same page that was developed by Python last year, but I'm going to talk about something totally different. So that's the first reveal from the last year. And let's say that it's not working like I want it to, and I can't really debug it. It's in the background, and I don't know how to set up the debugging in PyCharm. It's hard. I don't want to do that. Never mind. So I just write something like this. But without that. Something like this. You might know it from the PDB. So PDB looks nearly the same. But what can I achieve with that? Let's refresh the page. Where is the refresh key? Okay, nearly here. Yeah. So it's not working, it's spinning, but it is working. I don't know why, but in the new version it opens some strange text input. But here, now, on the port 1984 that I forward from background, I have something like this. And what is this? This is my PDB, but the web one. So what can I do here? I can, for example, see what args are in the function. Oh, it's not args. So maybe let's see what's in locals. Yeah, we go to function locals. Yeah, but I have some stuff here. Let's see what the self is. Yeah, the self is some object, but I wonder what. Sorry. That was not my intention. That was not true. You must believe me because it was. I'm really glad these holes are so big because I prepared that while going here from my room. So WDB enables you to have PDB but enhanced with the web. It's running on socket, so it's even better if you don't have an access to the file. If you run, for example, your test or you run foreman, it won't spoil anything. You just have an access to the PDB. Also, it is much more useful than PDB. You have everything nicely shown to you, and I really recommend that to everyone who enjoys having things written. If you want to download it, you just download it from Cosia/WDB, and there are two packages. One is the WDB you add to the program, and the second one is the WDB server that runs in the backend. And just like that, you have a PDB, which is pretty awesome. And I think I have like 30 seconds more, so let me invite you all 8:30 p.m. here. There will be followed by Python 2, which will be called The Run Back Again. So we've prepared even more, even harder riddles, and I hope that you will solve at least a few of them. And that's it. Thank you.
And Łukasz will be talking about visualizing scripts CPy, if I read it correctly.
Przygotuję? Witam. Nazywam się Łukasz Lapa. Jak większość z Was, może takim zawodowym programistą, jestem inżynierem budownictwa, ale staram się używać właśnie tutaj Pythona do pewnych obliczeń. I nie znalazłem innego narzędzia, żeby coś takiego robić. I Python, i Python Notebook. Jeśli chodzi o formę liczbowych raportów, nie było to, co jakby potrzebowałem. Powstał pewien projekt, który służy do tworzenia wizualizacji robionych, wizualizacji skryptów, o tak powiedzmy. Odbywa się to w ten sposób, że plikiem natywnym jest plik Pythona, który edytujemy. Ok, teraz tak. Na czym polega idea? Chodzi o to, żeby powiedzmy, dodając pewne rzeczy w strefie, w rejonie komentarzy, móc uzyskać obraz tego w raporcie. Przykładowo, jeśli chcemy komentarz, który mamy tutaj wyświetlić w raporcie, dodajemy wykrzyknik i to po przeładowaniu, powiedzmy, pojawia się tutaj nam w raporcie. Podobnie, jeżeli mam tutaj jakieś obliczenia i wystarczy dodać w raporcie dostajemy po prostu, to jest raport, tu jest plik źródłowy. Jakie to są jeszcze możliwe właściwości? W programie jest opcja składni. Tu możemy tak używać komentarzy, wyświetlać, fragmenty kodu Python możemy do raportu wrzucać, zdjęcia, wykresy matplotlib, renderować składnie latex, grafika SVG i interakcja, czyli to tak będzie widać jeszcze matematyczne wyrażenia. Wróćmy do tego. Przykładowe tutaj jest użycie tego programu. Tu jest w czystym Pythonie napisany program, który wylicza miejsca zerowe funkcji kwadratowej i spróbujemy go sobie tutaj wyświetlić w raporcie. Czyli to sobie będziemy chcieli pokazać, się to będzie pojawiać. Teraz to też sobie pokażemy. Te wartości chcemy mieć możliwość ustawiania w raporcie jako interaktywne. Tutaj się pojawiły. Jeszcze powiedzmy, mam tam w tym folderze, gdzie jest mój tryb zapisany, taki obrazek parabola PNG. W tym momencie ona się też tutaj powiedzmy wyświetla. Idźmy dalej. Czyli wyliczamy miejsca zerowe. Powiedzmy, że jeśli zostaną wyliczone, to chcielibyśmy to móc pokazać. Podobnie to. I teraz jeszcze to przeładujemy. To tutaj mamy wyświetlone dwie wartości. Jeszcze odpowiedni komentarz. Tutaj poinformuje, że miejsca zerowe zostały znalezione. Podobnie, jeśli tych miejsc nie ma, no to wystarczy, że zobaczymy ten komentarz. Teraz tak, mogę wciąż jakby ten skrypt, który jest tutaj, uruchomić jako zwykły plik Pythona, czyli F5. Uruchamiam. OK, tu jest jeszcze wykres matplotlib. Raz jeszcze to robimy. O, może tylko jeszcze.
Let's have our next speaker. Michal will be talking about something requirements. Give him a warm applause.
Hello, I'm Michal. I'm from Opera Software. Opera TV, the part that is not supposed to be sold to the Chinese. So this will be a short story about a practical joke I tried to make. This is arguably funny. It was funny for me, not funny for others, but my friends find it funny. Okay, so people love these requirements, they file, they describe their requirements in this, and you know how it works. And if you use them, you know this problem, like, simple type. But have you ever done this? This is different requirements file, each work the same, yes? But not. How does it work? It's not pip feature. It's just typo squatting experiment I did. It's not single package, it's a bunch of them. So it's very simple, you create setup by command. It's not the setup by command, the whole setup by command I had. It's only parts. You need to guess the current working directory, then run another pip install process, and you're done. But you're not done. You have one problem, pip swallows all your standard output. It's not fun for me. So you need to guess the TTY, because in Windows, I don't know how to do this, but I don't care. So it's simplified code. So you guess that TTY and you write directly to it, so the user will see that you installed packages that were in this requirements file. It's pretty dangerous, but what you do next, you publish, people get mad, people want you to remove that. And finally, I was disappointed, like people were disappointed that I did this. I was disappointed that they don't like my sense of humor. But I respect pull request. So now it's a bit different. And no one will do that, but you have a lot of requirements file that you push to the pipeline.
Works this time. Please, please, please. Yes! Okay, so you may remember me from yesterday, and now I have one slide. Rejoice. Yeah, so I'm going to be raising awareness about Python REPLs, so interactive shells. Let's go to the shell. So, you know Python, right? Everybody is grounded. I want to import something. I press tab. What happens? Nothing interesting. So, yeah, it's kind of sad. But let's go to Python 3, and relatively new Python 3, as you can see, 3.5. And what happens? I press tab. I do something like that, or even let's say, I don't have to press strange. But anyway, yeah, you see, I can play O, and O is ambiguous, so when I press tab, it says something. So it's rather nice. But this is normal Python 3. You probably used something like IPython, who used IPython shell. Nice, nice. So you know that when you do IPython, of course it's Python 3, I can press import, and it does some stuff. I can press OS, oh I got this nice and curses interface, I can press this, and I still have to press the tab though to get some completion. So let's see something more interesting. So PyPython. That's all, but you can, and it does this code completion automatically. I don't have to press anything. It just tells me what to do. I can switch around on edit straight, and I can like, oh, I want to get to the current working directory, and I have the documentation right there. Nice, but that's not all. So PyPython is great, but there's a new guy down, and I think this is the best one for me, at least. Well, PyPython is kind of faster, but PyPython is best. For example, you know, it has completions, la 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 la. Yeah, it does that. I can do get. Yeah, I get the documentation, but you've noticed that it's somewhat like there's a delay. But there's this one killer feature that's absolutely no. One killer feature that's, you know, I can like define something like yeah, I print the A, and then I return A plus 1, yeah, and I can do let A. Nothing too serious, but you know, in all those previous shells, if you'd want to modify this function, you'd have to rewrite it all again. And now I press up, and I can edit it. Ooh, right. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Oh, yeah, yes. And now I can play. Boom. I would drop the mic, but put on it firmly attached. So this is all I wanted to say. Exactly now, the toolkit to make those n-curses applications in the command line that was used in Python is actually open source as a different library. It's called Python Prompt Toolkit, and it's really great. And the guy from PyCon said that the toolkit to make the application is better in PyPython. So maybe Python is nice, and people from IPython switch to Prompt Toolkit from PyPython. So PyPython rules. Thank you.
Python to poniekąd robi jak to w modzie. Nie, to musisz przetestować. Musisz powiedzieć wszystko przyjść. Ale wziąć masz konto. Co? No już co, on na to rzeczy ma konto, to jest skonstruowane narzędzie. Ale mógłby też robić takie coś tutaj. Czego? Jest potrzebny? Nie, to nie. Nie mogę.
Okay, so Michal will be talking about emojis.
Hi guys, a short thing. This is the emojis. This year there was a talk on JavaCon exclusively about emojis. So I read about this, a few things, and I stumbled upon an article written by an Indian guy. The title was, "I can text you a pile of poo, but I can't write my name." The thing is, while Unicode and all the things like emojis and all emoticons and everything was meant to like solve the problems of typing once and for all, it really doesn't. So maybe instead of introducing emojis and then trying to fix things about diversity by introducing different skin colors to those emojis and a crap that everybody uses while texting each other, maybe we can start with the real problem. And one of those problems is hard unification thing. Namely, someone in the Unicode consortium decided that it would be a really good idea to take those characters and say that, for example, the last column is exactly the same character. Well, the problem is that it is not, and to us it would be something like, so it's not, and this means that there are characters that are missing from the Unicode that people use, and the everyday languages they use are just not there, they cannot use it. On the other hand, we have homoglyphs, so there are characters that look exactly the same in all the fonts and everything, but they have different code points in Unicode. This opens up problems like phishing attacks, and especially after introducing Unicode to the domain names. So you look at something and you really cannot tell if it's Y or if it's a Cyrillic letter. So this hard unification to us, Latin speakers, would be something like this. Having like the character that looks similar doesn't exactly mean that it is the same character. Like we don't do that, and they don't want to do that. So maybe instead of using emojis and being really crazy about them, just fix the thing. This is the link to the article. Please read it. It's really good. Thank you.
Okay, Matthew will be talking about but ugly and concise. So he just needs one more second. Oh yeah, he's good. Okay, give him a warm applause. Thank you. You're doing your job. Okay, close.
It will be a little cut off, but whatever. It's not like you are supposed to use IPython notebook for presentations anyway. Okay, so I think this will be mostly about again golfing, but let's go. So, okay, yeah, it's very much cut off. But yeah, so whenever you think concise, you want to make things to look very clean, neat, and so on, then use built-in functions. I cannot repeat that enough. And there is plenty of tools, and you can do pretty neat things with them. But whenever you are golfing, actually Python 3 is somewhat harder because most of these use generators in Python 3, and in Python 2 you just get lists, and these are easier to hack with. But you still can do pretty fun stuff.
And yeah, this is just one example how you can use the built-in function to just make a matrix transposition. And yeah, I think this is pretty cool. This is actually something that allowed me today to win that golf contest. Okay, and if that isn't powerful for you enough, the built-in functions, you of course have iterators. Okay, so let's go to some examples. So yeah, so very typical thing. Whenever you just want to, okay, I just want to have a value that depends on some kind of condition. If you are a normal person, you use something like this. But yeah, probably a lot of you have code in C or other languages that have a ternary operator. So you kind of miss something even shorter than that. And then of course you can use that condition. If that comes down to green, you can use it as an index. But with Python actually also can use the and or to actually change this together, and all of these return exactly the same thing. Yeah, and again, because you can use that or change things. If you want A, only if A is ever true, then you can do A or B, and B will be only there whenever A is not true. And if A is something like a string or not every string, then it will return A. Okay, and of course, with these operators, nobody forbids you with actually executing code in the conditions. So as the print is a function in Python 3, you can actually print some stuff. So this will just print a yes on your screen. Yeah, imports and so on. So of course, don't ever do that. But yeah, you can if you want to save up space in your very fast script. But actually, another neat hack, if you don't want to that star there, and you don't actually want to type that from module import star asterisk, then you can actually import some kind of module that imports other modules, and then you use these modules from it. So yeah, this is another thing that lets you use space, but when I said don't use the asterisk, then don't use that ever, because that is so ugly, and also it can break between Python versions. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know whose idea was that, but of course everybody his or her career has used that line of code. PDB semicolon, PDB set trace. But yes, semicolon Python, guys, what's up with that? So here, I fixed that for you. Yeah. And of course, whenever you import things and so on, you can assign them to some kind of value. But that's important. But it's still kind of wrong.
Next speaker is Pavel, and Pavel will be talking about TDD and pair programming. Okay, let's give him a more applause.
So hi, my name is Pavel, I work at CIC.
and we built some applications for managing office space. In web applications we use Django and Postgres, we work in Scrum, and we thought we could give a try TDD and pair programming. So TDD is about writing tests first. The tests fail, then you write some code to make the tests pass, and then you refactor the code to make it better, to optimize it, things like that. We have two types of tests in two loops. First one are functional tests, and we write those using Selenium and Phantom.js, and they are based on user stories, and they are basically tests that test the flow of application. So there is like a script going through the page and doing everything user wants to. So it's really easy to make user story into the test script. And then we have unit tests, and we test all the parts of applications. And we also have parameterized tests. So we run all the tests with different sets of data. And some thoughts about how did it go for us. TDD is not a natural way of writing code, because you have to think about code you're going to write, and then write tests first, and then write your code. But we noticed there are less bugs make it to the code reviews. We have 100% test coverage. If you don't have 100% code coverage, you did something wrong, because you have to write tests first, so every line of code is tested. And we noticed that 100% test coverage is not enough, because you may have tested all the lines, but maybe not all the cases in your application. And another thing is testing becomes slow. We have made first application in this approach, and it's a pretty simple web app. It was written by 4 people in like 2 months, and it has over 1,500 tests for now. And the full test suite takes like 4 or 5 minutes on my lab. So when you want to run the whole test suite and something fails, you want to fix it and run the full test again, you have 15 minutes consumed. Okay. And if you want to give it a try and try some Django TDD, there's the great site of Baby Testing Go. I don't know if any of you know that, so you can raise your hands. Okay, so it's worth checking, because it's there's a web tutorial, there's a book, and there's also you can buy a video tutorial on how to approach this. And also we try pair programming. So it basically works this way: that one developer writes code, and there is another developer next to him, and he watches and reviews all the code at the same time, and they switch every 30 minutes or so. And I have like thoughts on that. It feels weird at first when you have somebody watching you and commenting your code while you write it. But also we notice better code quality and less bugs. We think there is knowledge is shared in a more natural way, because you learn something by observing how other developers do things. We also noticed that developers tend to work longer than expected, so they don't switch that often. So you have to, there is some discipline required just so they really switch and not continue working, that one writes all the code and the other one just comments. And also we tried pair programming with some remote work, so it's also possible with screen sharing, and so on local PC, one developer writes the code and another one just watches the screen and comments through, for example, Google Hangouts or Screen Hero or things like that. That's all.
Our last speaker, unless somebody else volunteers, well, I think we're run out of time and we'll be waiting for our next keynote speaker. is Arthur, and Arthur will be talking about Odoo. Give it a few more seconds. They have some technical difficulties, the usual ones. We're good, go.
Cześć, jestem Artur, reprezentuję tutaj serwis. Chcieliśmy przedstawić Wam Odoo. W zasadzie jest to system ERP, a przedstawiam Wam go dlatego, ponieważ jutro będziemy prowadzić ćwiczenia. Dlatego pewnie większość z Was nawet nie wie, co to Odoo jest, a może wiecie. Ale nie chcieliśmy, żeby sala była pusta, więc chcieliśmy się trochę jednak zaprezentować. Dobra. Odoo to system ERP, jest on open source'owy. W tym momencie jest on napisany w Pythonie 2, ale podczas nawiązywania przyjaźni polsko-belgijskiej na konferencji, w specyficzny dla nas sposób, dowiedzieliśmy się, że będzie on w pełni przekonwertowany na Pythona 3. W tym momencie korzysta z niego około 2 miliony ludzi. Zrzesza 730 partnerów, co daje 5400 programistów, czyli wszyscy programiści, którzy są też partnerami. Miesięcznie gdzieś powstaje około 312 nowych aplikacji, my tam dokładamy jakieś malutkie swoje cegiełki, ale jesteśmy gdzieś tam początkującymi, więc dopiero te aplikacje również uczymy się pisać. Odoo jest, może być, ma wersję darmową, czyli taką community, oraz enterprise'ową. No tak, my chwilowo obecnie korzystamy z wersji community. No i teraz coś bardzo ważnego. Osoby zainteresowane, które chciałyby jutro przyjść na to nasze szkolenie, powinny się do tego przygotować. To teraz tak, linki, które powinniście pobrać, to tutaj powinniście sobie teraz jakoś to zanotować. Dobra, już tak? Dobra? Ok? W porządku. A tutaj jest te wszystkie linki, które były wcześniej, to tu można sobie szybko ściągnąć. Jest też na Twitterze, na PL. Dziękuję bardzo.